I'm very pleased to invite our second keynote speaker, Dr. Jia Sinha. He is professor at the Myanmar Institute of Information Technology, Myanmar, and also professor at the Indian Institute of Information Technology, Bangalore. Dr. Sinha is adjunct professor, International Institute of Information Technology, IIIT, Bangalore, India, and professor, Myanmar Institute of Information Technology, MIT, Mandalay. He is also honorary visiting professor of Sri Lanka Technological Campus, Colombo. He has published 250 research articles and authored or edited 10 books with reputed publishers like Elsevier, Springer, IOP, CRC Press, etc. He has supervised 8 PhD scholars and actively involved in review of editorial activities of 5 reputed journals, including iManager's Journal on Pattern Recognition. He is ACM Distinguished Speaker in the area of digital signal processing. He is Fellow of IEI, IETE, and Senior Member of IEEE. He has been assigned the task of coordinating distinguished lectures and digital library activities of ACM for Hyderabad Deccan ACM Chapter India. He is a great scholar, a very well-known person, and he's very passionate towards teaching and also attending conferences. He has written a lot of books, and you can see his profile will be shared. And he was also one of the speakers for iManagers International Conference held in 2015. So I'm very happy to see you again, sir. Thank you so much. Please.
Okay, thank you so much, madam. Thank you so much. It's my again great pleasure to join your conference as one of the speakers. I express my gratitude to iManager. iManager has been always very kind to me, that giving me the opportunity to come across such an audience. Yeah, is my PPT visible? Are the slides visible?
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. So I will go ahead. So good morning there once again. Here it is 1:45. There it is 11:45. So good morning everyone there. Thank you so much once again to iManager for giving me the opportunity to join this conference as a speaker. And it is always my pleasure to be part of iManager and iManager initiatives and activities. And I congratulate Madam Winston, Madam Renisa Winston, for taking such initiatives and doing wonderful things in the areas of research and the publication related matters. So let me begin with my lecture. My lecture is on recent trends in cognitive science and brain computing research. All right. So the lecture is on cognitive science and brain computing research. This is very emerging area of research these days. I remember in 2015, I went there to deliver my keynote talk there. The lecture was on medical image diagnosis and the focus was on early detection of breast cancer. So we started working with medical image processing and analysis, but research is something that makes someone to narrow down your area. So our narrowed approach nowadays in medical image processing research is cognitive science based research. What is common in cognitive science and brain computing is brain signal, human brain. The study may also be based on brain of animals as well, but our research is based on human brain only. So in cognitive science as well as brain computing, what is common is brain image modality. Brain image is the input, and every interpretation, every analysis and understanding is based on brain signal. So this lecture would highlight on what are the research trends, what is currently going on in these areas, what are the soft computing and image processing methods, what are neural network and classifiers which are used, what are the challenges which are there in these areas, so that the young researchers can take up this research also as an important piece of research. So the outline This would include about introduction and motivation. I'll be talking about why this topic is so important. Then I'll be highlighting on what is the research trends, what type of methodologies, what type of approaches the researchers have been attempting in this area. Then research approach, that what would be the research approach to deal with the major challenges which are there in this area. So as you can see an interesting picture in this slide. This interesting picture tells everything about this topic. You can see that there is a human brain. This brain is emitting some, you can see some photons or some elements, are emitted by the brain. These are nothing but the energy which is emitted, the energy which is produced by the human brain. And believe me, whenever we think, our human brain is engaged in any activities, it always radiates some amount of energy. Always radiates some amount of energy. How, we will discuss in subsequent slides. So what we can see in this picture, that the signals which are coming from brain are acquired by the computer. You can see are acquired by a computing device, and this computing device is not an ordinary device. It's AI enabled device. It's artificial intelligent device that can easily differentiate, that can easily classify, that can easily interpret different type of brain waves, different type of brain signals which are emitted from the human brain. These are the recently edited books I just wanted to include so that the young researchers can refer this, that these two books were published by elsewhere, and that too specifically on this topic, that is on cognitive science. So let's begin. What is cognitive science? Cognitive science is purely an interdisciplinary study, purely interdisciplinary. It combines a major domains. I will be talking about which are the major domains which are covered in this cognitive science research. And the study is about mind, for examining nature, the task the mind or human brain can handle, the functions of cognition, cognitive ability of human brain. These studies intelligence and behavior. How does a human brain acquire knowledge? How does it become intelligent agent? How does it classify the different objects? And with an emphasis on how a nervous system represent, process, and transform the information. Our sensory organ, our eyes and other sensory organs receive or sense the outside world. How does the nervous system understand that signal, understand the outside information, and acts accordingly? That is also part of cognitive science research. So the goal is to understand the principle of intelligence to better comprehend the mind and its learning for developing intelligent devices. There are intelligent products which are used in robotics, driverless car, space-based projects. There was a important project which was launched by ISRO, Government of India, this year only in the beginning, a lady robot which we are projecting to send to the space. That's an intelligent device. It has cognitive science capabilities. So to understand the mind and behavior, and mind is slightly different from brain. Brain is a physical object, whereas mind is, the behavior, the dynamic behavior, the dynamics of human brain are actually mind. Through your mind, you can immediately reach to a city of Singapore or city of USA, but your brain cannot reach. So something like that is mind. So I was telling you that cognitive science covers major domains, a number of major domains. Which are the major domains? Education, philosophy, linguistics, anthropology, neuroscience, AI, psychology. If you read all these statements, you will find what does philosophy cover? It studies knowledge, reality, and existence about the human being. Psychology, it studies behavior and mind. Neuroscience studies nervous system, because brain itself is a nervous system, and that brain, the human brain, is mimicked by the computer called as neural network. Then linguistics, study of different languages. Our human brain can understand a language, different types of languages. A brain can help in translating language from one language to other language. How these abilities are developed, how does it develop that understanding, are all covered under linguistics. Anthropology, it studies about human society and culture. There has been evolution of society. There are different cultures, diverse cultures, and we do understand that we have to respect all the diverse cultures. So that understanding is there, respecting all the culture, understanding all the cultures. And that was about cognitive science. What is BCI? Because I am going to talk about recent trends in BCI, that is brain computing research and cognitive science. So cognitive science is all about an interdisciplinary research that covers AI, psychology, philosophy, study and behavior of study of mind and behavior, and the number of abilities of human brain. Is there any disorder, mental disorder? Is there any abnormality in human brain? All are covered in cognitive science. But what does BCI cover? It is also called as mind-machine interface, brain-machine interface. That actually is the direct communication. It is interrelated with cognitive science. It's not different. It is direct communication between wired brain. Our brain is a wired brain. I will tell you why. And the external device. The brain and external computer or external computing device are interfaced by the system called as brain-computer interface or brain computing. It aims at researching, mapping, augmenting, repairing human cognitive or sensory motor functions. We will understand this. What is important is, how does BCI work? BCI works on receiving the signals from brain. But how does a brain generate a signal? That is very important. My lot of focus will be there on that only, because it's very important in signal processing that where are the signals? How do we acquire the signal? And then there are numerous signal processing and soft computing methods which could be applied in order to simplify and understand those signals. But signal acquiring and signal understanding is important, that we'll be discussing. So the signals which are generated by human brain are nothing but electrical potentials. Believe me, the signals which are generated by brain are always electrical signal. Some electrical pattern is always generated. Let me take 30 seconds or 1 minute. We know that human brain is a kind of neural network. Natural neural network is human brain, which contains billions of neurons. The smallest element inside the human brain is neuron. And there are billions of neurons, and those neurons are structured together in different layers. So every neuron or a group of neurons stimulates some energy. When we think, when we cry, when we are sad, when we are upset, when we are happy, when we are excited, in all these different situations and conditions, the brain and the different parts of human brain release some amount of energy. And that pattern, that energy, that electrical pattern, it is different in different areas of human brain. When we are normal, the patterns which are generated are different. When we are abnormal, the patterns are generated are different. How? Let's understand. So, what is that signal which we acquire from the brain? I believe these days everyone is aware of EEG, that is electroencephalography. EEG is most popular. Then there is ECG, then there is MEG, EMG. There are different modalities. There are different image types which are captured from human brain. But what is most popular, most popularly researched modality is EEG, that is electroencephalography. There are a number of databases available over which the researchers are working. So what is EEG? It records the electrical activities of the brain. It tracks and records brain wave patterns. Does brain generate wave? Yes. Those brain wave patterns, those electrical signals are stored in the form of EEG. And that EEG is subjected to brain computer interface or subjected to computer for further understanding and analysis. The normal people will have different EEG, abnormal people will have different EEG pattern. So this was introduction about, cognitive science and brain computing. Now, what does motivate us? Why do we do research in this area? What is important thing? I mean, what is very interesting thing here so that we can take up this as a research? This is the motivation. I will not read everything, but I have in fact removed a number of, slides from this motivation part, and I have included only important sentences. What we can read some important lines as per WHO, report, around 45.7 million people had depressive disorders, as 1 in 3 years lost due to mental disorder was due to the depression. The mental disorders are reported as the second leading cause of disease burden in terms of years lived with disability. The sum total years of life lost and years lived with disability have doubled from 1990 to 2017 with the rate of 2.5% to 4.7%, almost double. There are different depression, there are different disorders, especially during COVID time. People are talking a lot about these days that due to the losing a job, or there are different situations where the people are undergoing different stress and other things. All those could be analyzed using this particular research domain. So this is motivation, and it is very important because, see, in the mental disorder analysis, in the area of this biomedical and cognitive science research, there has not been much, especially availability of physicians, availability of resources, infrastructure is not very much. So therefore, this research has its own importance. There is a latest finding, and this is not very important finding, everyone understands it very well. In May this year only, Cell Reports, a very popular, mostly cited journal, it published one article. It says that human brains replay waking experiences during sleep. Human brains replay waking experiences during sleep. That is, sometimes we call it as a dream. In our dream, we think something, whatever happened throughout the day. So whatever experiences are there that, keep on running, and that experience comes during sleep as well. So human brain is always active. These are the research, areas where EEG and cognitive science research are going on, like in the disease prediction, sleep disorder, epilepsy analysis, tumor detection, Alzheimer's disease analysis, attention deficit, emotion and cognitive assessment, entertainment industry, in the lot of entertainment industry are using robotics and other type of toys where you can see, where you can experience sentiment and emotions which are there in different toys and different objects which are simulated in different entertainment products. Neuro rehabilitation and robotics, brain computer interface, EEG and machine learning, cognition assessment, optimization techniques. These are the areas where the researchers are carrying out research in these two important areas, which are actually under a broad area, cognitive science and brain computing research. I actually thought of bringing an extensive review that what currently people have been researching, but I removed it due to the time constraint. But I will be highlighting that based on the extensive review in the current research in these areas, what are the problems the researchers are facing, and what kind of research we can still think of doing in this area. Brain signal, because the central theme, the focus of cognitive science and brain computing research is brain and brain signal. And human brain is very complex. Therefore, we also say that it's very difficult to understand a person. It's because of the nature of human brain is very complex. And the brain signal is also non-stationary. It includes huge dimension. How does it include huge dimension? I will tell you later. And therefore, since it has high dimensionality, its nature is non-stationary, and therefore a proper analysis and efficient analysis is needed in this area. That is one. Second is brain signals are affected by psychological, physiological, technical artifacts which need to be removed with minimum loss of information. Please understand it. Psychological, we have some mental stress or any psychological impact that affects our human brain, that affects our capability to recall, capability to memorize, capability to understand, comprehend. Psychological, technical artifact is different thing. When we are capturing EEG signal, we are advised to be calm, but suddenly we start blinking our eyes, suddenly we start moving our hands or moving our other organs. The signals which are being recorded from human brain will have artifact, will have variation, will have unwanted effect. So that is one area where a lot of research is going on. But image processing research is something where all image processing books, they admit that, the books admit, the authors admit that there is no general theory. There is no robust approach in image processing. So every day someone does something, the next moment the modification or improvement comes after certain time. So the cognition assessment is another challenge. Cognitive assessment is subjective area. That is one more challenge. It's a subjective area. It's not general purpose. You acquire EEG from different persons. Suppose there are 100 persons, all are normal, but there will be some changes, some variations in the EEG modalities. But of course, there is some limit. We keep some threshold value, and based on that, our analysis is based. What is next is another problem which is identified in current research is selection of proper channel. Now, I know that many of you are not understanding what do we mean by channel. You will understand very soon in next slides. How many appropriate number of channels are to be selected? Which channels are more important to acquire the brain signal for a particular activity? That is a challenge. Then what is important? The next important thing is optimal feature selection. We know that in any computer vision work, whatever data we capture, computer-based algorithm, computational algorithms are used to extract suitable features, and the analysis is based not on images or videos, but the analysis and interpretation is based on the features, the set of features. So the brain has high dimensionality, huge amount of information we retrieve, we extract, and therefore there may be a number of features. So which are the most appropriate features that would make the understanding, that would make decision making, that would make the analysis of brain computer interface appropriate? That is a challenge where the current research is going on. This slide depicts about BCI, that how EEG signals are captured. You can see that there is a cap-like structure which is placed over the skull. EEG is recorded. EEG signals are pre-processed because it has number of artifacts and other problems, and then we extract the features, and those features are classified, and based on the classification, the important task in brain-computer interface is to perform suitable task in different applications, like in entertainment, like in robotics. A robot, you might have seen during COVID-19, there are a number of robots which are being used for different purposes. Robots are used to serve the medicine, to serve food to the COVID-19 patients. So the robots have been trained, they have been guided, and they have been guided by AI enabled system. So they are not actually being controlled by brain signals, but that's how the BCI aims to do it. Whatever we think, accordingly commands could be generated, and those commands can perform certain tasks. That is what is the area called as BCI. EEG signals are acquired, then features are extracted, and we have hundreds of features, so we need to classify them, and according to classification, some appropriate commands will be generated in order to perform certain tasks. So BCI acquires brain signals, analyze them, and translate them into commands that can control a number of operations. BCI may be invasive, semi-invasive, or non-invasive. The meaning is we do not insert the needle. We know nowadays we have a cap-like structure. That cap is placed over the scalp, and the system is not invasive. It's non-invasive. There is no need to insert any electrodes inside the brain. So what I meant by saying cognitive ability is this. You can see here we have ability for attention, we have ability to plan, ability for retention and recalling, ability for reasoning. There are a number of abilities we have. And do you know, there is a next important picture that tells everything. You see, this is the brain structure. And if you see the different areas, this is the part you look at, I think you can see the pointer, this particular part called as parietal. In the parietal area is speech, text, taste, reading, these are the activities which are, this area is responsible to identify, to detect these type of activities. If you go to temporal area, smell, hearing, auditory association area. If you go to frontal lobe, motor cortex, speech motor cortex means someone asks to do some task. Someone asks, you go ahead, you move ahead. Whether I can move ahead, it's up to me. If I decide to move ahead, I will go. If I decide to move my hand, then only I move. So all our motory organs, all our moving organs are controlled by brain. So how do we decide? This is the area called as frontal lobe. You see here occipital lobe, vision capability, seeing something, visualizing something, that ability is in this area. Now I think anyone can understand very easily. If I place some electrodes here, this parietal area, then those electrodes will bring the signal, will bring the brain signal related to speech ability, related to ability to taste, whether it is tasty, whether it is not tasty, whether we have ability to taste, what type of different taste, we can understand. Those things are interpreted with the help of brain signals emitted by this parietal area. This is what is cognitive science. Cognitive science studies the entire brain structure and the modalities which are, the waves which are captured from the structure, from the complete brain. This is the extension of that previous diagram. If you can see, occipital is related to vision, and the temporal is related to memories. Frontal area is related to problem solving, creative thinking, personality traits. Parietal lobe is associated with visual abilities, reading capabilities, understanding capabilities, understanding language, understanding languages. Which area is responsible for understanding the language? This one. All right, so let us not talk about nervous system, that we extract the signal, then we can control some operation. So I will, save some time, because I probably have to finish by 12:30 IST. So I have around 20 minutes. This is a neuron. I will again not talk much about the neuron, but I was talking about a neuron, which is the smallest cell present in the brain. And do you know, such neurons, we have billions in numbers, rather more than trillions in numbers. And those neurons are structured there. And what we call as a neural network, as a computational algorithm in computer, that neural network is actually, a copy of, we try to mimic the human brain in a computer called as an algorithm neural network. So this is a neuron. Now let me, give some 10 minutes or 7 minutes at least to brain waves. Let's understand the signals. Then I will quickly wind up by what type of approaches are required to understand these brain waves. So as I told you, brain waves are nothing but each neuron or group of neurons always emit some patterns of electrical signals. And those are brain waves. And do you know what are different brain waves? These are the brain waves. Practically, what are those waves? Delta, beta, theta, gamma, alpha, and mu. These are the waves. And if you can understand as you know the waves, you can see the amplitude is less, frequency is also very less. I think the delta wave has lowest frequency. If you go to beta, frequency is becoming high, the amplitude is almost uniform. If you go to theta, frequency is still less, gamma has high frequency, mu also has more frequency but lesser than gamma. What these gamma, alpha, beta, theta are? These are actually the patterns emitted and generated by the human brain from different parts. Let us see one by one very quickly. Delta. Delta, generally the frequency is 0.5 to 4 hertz. Can you imagine? I told you, brain signals are very small frequencies. See, we place the electrodes. Those are electrical wires. We know, and when we connect those electrical wires with the supply is 50 hertz. So the 50 hertz is very, very high in comparison with these signals. Otherwise, there will be interference. We will not be able to differentiate whether power line signal is coming or the brainwave signal is coming. The brain signal frequency is very less. What the delta wave is, it is present frontally in adult, posteriorly in children, are primarily associated with deep sleep. When someone is in deep sleep, it emits a wave called as a delta wave, whose frequency is very less. What about theta? 4 to 8 hertz, mostly observed in young children. However, in older children and adult as well, it can be observed in the state of drowsiness or arousal, as well as while we are meditating. During meditation also, waves called as theta waves are generated. The excess of theta waves always indicates some abnormality. Next is alpha. Alpha is from 8 to 13. It is used for associated with wakefulness, closing the eye, effortless alertness, creativity. These are assessed, evaluated on the basis of alpha wave. So you can understand alpha wave is generated from which area of human brain, because we have seen that which area is responsible for which activity. Now you can understand alpha wave may be from which part of the human brain. You can correlate later. It appears posterior half of the head and have higher amplitude over the occipital areas. Beta wave, even higher frequency, 14 to 26. It's found only in normal adults, and these waves are correlated with active attention, active thinking, solving critical problems, focusing on outside world, and therefore also known as sensory motor rhythm. When we are not able to focus in the classroom, we will not understand and we will do something, right? So these are all associated with the wave called as beta wave. And the amplitude is also given as 30 microvolt. Imagine the amplitude of signal, the electrical signal is 30 microvolt. It may not be high. If it is high, our brain will blast. Frequency can never be high. The amplitude can never be high. Otherwise, it will get heated up. If frequency becomes very high, it will blast. And therefore, the frequencies which are very less. Sometimes when we are in stress, imagine, when you are not able to decide, sometimes you do something like this. So you try to, stimulate your neurons so that, you can calm yourself, and accordingly that frequency can be controlled and appropriate signal can be generated. Then gamma waves, even higher, 30 hertz. It is used to determine binding of different populations of neurons together. Then mu wave, it is from 8 to 30. It's used for sensory motor cortex area. So these were brain waves. I believe that all those who are attending might have gained some idea about what do we mean by brain signal. And this part I can, skip that I was talking about electrical signal. What do we mean by electrical signal? Some potential, electrical potential is generated that we see as a pattern, spikes, high, low, high, low. This is what is the phenomenon. You must have heard that potassium and sodium ions are there. So when there is excess of ion, when there is a less of ion, there will be difference in the polarity. So that will build up some field, electrical field, small electrical field, and that will cause active potential. And finally, we get that electrical potential as the electrical signal. So this is what is the system for EEG recording. You can see that these are the electrodes I was talking about. Yeah, there is a cap-like structure which is placed over the skull, and these are the electrodes, and you can see all electrodes are connected with the wires. Those wires are called as channels. I was talking about channels. Suppose there are 64 electrodes, so there will be 64 channels, or even some number of electrodes or nodes can be connected together through a common channel. I mean, a number of electrodes can be combined together and we can get a common signal as well. So the channels are connecting these nodes. Nodes means these electrodes which are put over the placed over the head, and we apply some wet or dry material with the electrode so that conductivity is interfaced and so that it can sense the electrical signal. If some of you who are aware about ECG, if someone goes for ECG, they put electrodes over the chest, and in the over your chest they will put some some weight materials, glue kind of material that is used to provide connectivity interface and conductivity interface to the electrode. So this is also the mechanism where this is how the EEG recording works. There are different systems for EEG recording. Let's not go into the detail of EEG recording. Once EEG recording is done, these are the electrodes positions. There are 10 by 20 system, there are 10 by 10 system, there are 10 by 5 system. You can simply Google what do we mean by 10 by 20 system of EEG recording. It has 21 electrodes. So maximum 300 electrodes could also be placed, and we can get as maximum as signals from the human brain. Now, the next part I will be quickly talking about some 8 to 10 minutes. What do we do? How do we understand the brain signal? Do we directly analyze? Do we directly interpret the brain waves? No. I can give one example, simple example of computer vision. When we buy a smartphone, we put our fingerprint, we record our fingerprint. Why? So that next time during testing, it can authenticate that I am an authenticated user. So what does it do? Does it record our fingerprint image? Of course it records, but it does not store the entire image. Rather, it extracts the features. And those features are stored in the form of template in the biometrics. See, you know about multimodal biometric example, Aadhaar card. So when you put your Aadhaar, your fingerprint, all your data are retrieved because it has included all your modalities, your eyes, your 10 fingers, and your face. So that brings everything on the basis of features, templates which are stored in the database, the template database. So what I'm trying to say is the brain waves are the raw data. The analysis will not be made on raw data. Those data or that data needs to be properly analyzed. So we will extract suitable number of features. So now we need to apply computing part. What are the computing parts, techniques? It includes signal acquisition and processing techniques, machine learning techniques, and optimization techniques. Why? Let's understand. Signal acquisition. It is used to acquire the brain signals. There are different standards of electrodes placement. But what is important in signal acquisition? There is a research that says that most of the problems are, a lot of problems are there associated with signal acquisition only. When we do not acquire appropriate signal, the entire analysis based on those signals would be inappropriate. And therefore, acquiring the signal is very important. What do we mean by acquiring the signal? Suppose we are acquiring the signal and sampling rate of the system is not proper. Signal to noise ratio of each channel is not good. Then the signal captured would not be of good strength, proper strength, attenuated noise and movement artifact. It happens that, when you record EEG signal, the patient might have blinked the eyes or might have done something, might have moved some of the organs. That would definitely distract, that would definitely disturb the original signal which we were expecting as a normal signal for that pattern, for that particular kind of activity. So acquisition has difficulties, and for that, next stage is pre-processing. We know that signals may have difficulties, signals may have artifacts related to motion artifacts, eye blinking, ocular artifacts, and so on. The interferences, there may be different problems there while acquiring the signal. What is the next task? The next task is signal processing. It may apply some suitable filters or signal processing methods, statistical methods. There are numerous methods: Butterworth filter, Kalman filter, adaptive filters, PCA, a number of analyses and analytics are there which are applied in order to convert the signal into suitable data, so that the data can be subjected for further subsequent analysis. You can see here, the blue color signal is actually the raw signal, and the red color slightly better is the clean signal. So when you subject these clean signals to the further feature extraction and machine learning approaches, then the appropriate features will be extracted and then proper understanding will be made. This is why signal processing is needed. Someone can ask me which type of signal processing we should use. I don't have an answer. You have to research. What type of research we have to do? We have to extensively study about current research, and that to quality contributions. That what type of signal processing. Then you have to have a comparative analysis, and based on comparative analysis, you can find out, yes, this is what I want to do. I want to analyze the cognitive ability of human brain. So for that, these are only 100 methods available. Out of 100, these 3 are performing well. So I can choose one of those 3 methods. So this is based on selection of a suitable method is a very, very difficult question. It can be only made by extensive study and then subsequent analysis. What is next is feature extraction. And of course, for feature extraction and training, computer has to learn the data, and for learning, we have to apply a suitable machine learning method. What type of features may be extracted? Statistical parameters, time domain features, amplitude, energy, power spectral density, wavelet coefficient, hundreds of different features. Mean, standard value, variance, SNR, hundreds of different statistical features can be extracted using different machine learning and other training methods, and the features can be equivalently represented as a feature data set. So out of hundreds of features, which are the features which are most relevant, which are most appropriate for our work? That is very important to decide. So next one is machine learning. Again, one can ask me which type of machine learning. I would say that especially when the large amount of data is involved, wherever there is a huge amount of data involved, we go for deep learning. Most emerging method of neural network or machine learning is a deep learning. But there are many more. Supervised machine learning includes KVM, SVM, support vector machine, KNN, that is K nearest neighbor, NAMAS, deep learning, unsupervised K-means, because we also don't know whether supervised is required or unsupervised is required. Suppose we want to detect a tumor and we don't know where the tumor is in the brain. So possibly supervised may not work. So unsupervised method of machine learning has to be used. So accordingly, we have to decide. Supervised when the input and output are labeled, unsupervised when output response is not known. Based on input label data, you have to just, with the help of hidden layers and hidden structures, you have to keep on finding the best possible response in the unsupervised learning. So I would not recommend that this is the method that could be used. Any better method, any appropriate method can be chosen so that it can train, it can categorize the different features, and the classification can be made. that there are a number of features which need to be classified, how the classification could be done by using a suitable machine learning method, a learning method that would make computer trained, that would make computer learn. The next one is optimization techniques. One of my scholar, the PhD scholar who is pursuing her PhD from National Institute of Technology, Raipur, that girl is doing wonderful work on cognitive assessment of human brain based on EEG signal. Recently, she got some 4 SCI papers, including IEEE transaction and IEEE sensor journals. So, that two important optimization algorithms were used by her, Jaya optimization algorithm and teacher learner based. You can read here, teacher learner based algorithm. So generally in signal processing, what do we do? Optimization techniques are used mostly to improve the performance of existing method. But here by saying optimization technique, I mean something different. What is that? As I told you, how to select appropriate channels, how to select appropriate features. Suppose I have 17 features. How many features are most appropriate? How can I choose? I need to optimize that. I need to optimize the channel selection. So there are different algorithms like teacher learner based, swarm intelligence based algorithm, evolutionary algorithms. There are many algorithms, optimization algorithms. Again, my recommendation is on your area, suppose you are performing some task on psychological impact and study of human mind. So in that area, you have to find out that which are the algorithms, which are the optimization methods which are being tested or which have been attempted. You have to have comparative analysis. But if you want to try other methods, the new methods, you have to do experimentation. You have to test whether the new method can perform better or not. So that requires a lot of time and a lot of patience. And this is how one can improve the performance. So finally, I said that I would be concluding by challenges which would be taken, that poor signal to noise ratio and artifact problem is a major issue in this area. Implantation of electrodes, if it is not made appropriately, is a problem. Then next is your high dimensionality of data, large number of features, selection of channel, which is the appropriate channel, which area more electrodes are required, which area less number of electrodes are required. And then of course, there is a robustness problem, that variation between different individuals. Even there are abnormal persons, even there are normal persons, there is variation. So you have to have some tolerance in terms of variance, and then your research can be based on that tolerance limit. And what is more is difficulty in obtaining precise and accurate result, because brain is very sensitive and the nature of brain is very complex. So I'm very particular to time. I was given 45 minutes. I hope I did justice. And this is all from my side. Thank you very much. Once again, I manager for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Sinha, for the brilliant lecture. So,
Thank you.
Brain computing is an emerging area of research, and human brain is the most complex thing, you have explained in the lecture. So, I just want to conclude with there has been research happening all over the world, and if we as humans, we even select our partners. It is depending on the computing of the brain. We use assortative mapping according to researchers in Australia and University of Oxford. So brain computing is a very emerging thing, because human pattern, our thinking, everything is revolved around it. And putting it into the current perspective of research and industry together, see, artificial intelligence or brain computing is interrelated in a way, because bigger corporates are using preferential buying to brain computing. See, if there is a perfume company, there's a very huge company where my brother-in-law is working in UK. They have a separate artificial intelligence team and a brain computing team. So they use to map the preferences, which flavor is most preferred. So we have a huge area of research emerging from brain computing and artificial intelligence, where preferential buying could also be related to brain computing, and which is where Google or Facebook, they are trying to map our behavior. So it's a huge area of research. And thank you for giving an eye opener on this. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. Please take care.